All right, it is Monday, May 4th, around 10:30 a.m. And we embark on a new story today. Yesterday, the last few days actually, getting through Everything is Free, going down that almost psychedelic type of witchcraft experience with that whole crazy story. It was a trip. I'm still happy with that script, and hopefully I explained it okay, what I was going for as a look at the music industry through the lens of a psychological horror movie. I don't know if something like that has really been done before, probably, but I don't know anything to reference. So we're done with the feature side of my screenwriting. That I wrote 15 scripts back in 2021 to 2023. It was kind of a manic period in my writing life where that's all I did. I didn't have a job. I lost my job in 2021 and I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And this is kind of what I went to school for. I went to school for journalism and communications and political science back in the early 2000s at Towson University in Maryland. And during that time, I did take some film screenwriting classes, creative writing, poetry. So I was kind of branching out, trying to at least, into different forms of expression. And I was still writing my shitty songs back then. And yeah, all of that was helpful though. You have to go through those moments of killing your ego because you think your shit's good, but it's not. And hopefully you get to a comfortable medium where you're happy with your output at some point. But how do you really know? Like, I'm happy with this experience I've had since 2020. I'm very happy with what I produced and what I keep producing over the last year or so. Um, can I really speak to it other than my own opinion? No, because I don't have a network of people that give me feedback or edit me, which I probably wouldn't want anyway. But I don't have anyone giving me feedback, and I don't have these released to a public sphere, public square online or anywhere else. I don't have a network of people, is what I'm trying to say, that can help me grow and build these into actual financially viable commodities. I tried to put these on eBay a year ago because I didn't know what else to do. I started selling my screenplays on eBay. Like, hey, I would make little videos, like a minute video, and pitch it like I was pitching it to someone. Why the hell was I doing that? I don't fucking know. It's stupid as hell. Who's going on eBay to buy and produce a screenplay? Like, it's ridiculous. But I just didn't know how else to handle it. I don't know. I don't know people in the industry. I don't know how to join the Writers Guild or any union. I don't know how to do these things. I don't know who to ask, who to guide me towards these obstacles. Well, I see them as obstacles because I don't know how to approach it. Maybe I should have done more 20 years ago when I was in college, but now I was kind of shitty at that. Networking myself. I was always kind of introverted to begin with. And back then, I was a completely different person. I wrote maybe one screenplay, and it was really stupid. I wish I had it saved, but I don't have it anymore. I wrote this crazy screenplay about like this whole political drama that started when the president commits suicide, and then all this crazy shit would just domino from that opening scene. The first scene of the movie, you just see the president in the Oval Office, and he just shot himself. And it's just like, what if that would really happen? If the president actually committed suicide, would they cover it up? I think I just spoke about this a couple posts earlier. But that was really my only experience, and I think I like tried to do Project Greenlight when HBO was doing that, but I gave up on it pretty quickly, kind of. It's not that I didn't like creative writing or songwriting. I just didn't really branch out enough to really learn it as a profession. I just kind of did it by myself in my dorm, and then later in my apartment. I just always worked alone, maybe very minimally. I would try to get feedback from people, but yeah, that kind of disappeared as I lived more and more like a hermit. But I tried to do it online, but you never know who you're dealing with online or over the phone. When you're dealing with strangers, you don't know who you're dealing with. So, yeah, this is definitely um, maybe the main reason that some voice told me to start this process where I would read all these scripts aloud. Maybe the main motivation that wasn't even aware of was because I'm desperate to work with other people, to collaborate, to network, to actually find people with a similar outlook, a similar artistic vision that I have. And yeah, I don't think anything I've done is radical. Any of these scripts that I've read, The Seeds of Anarchy, Everything is Free, which I just got through yesterday, and Elegant Eccentrics, I don't think these are radical scripts. They're not trying to change anyone's mind about life and death and the human experience and what America represents and what the global order, the new world order, and all that conspiracy shit. Like all of that are elements of my brain because that's what I've been immersed in for throughout my life. Politics, religion kind of leads every aspect of your life, whether you want it to or not. You can try to escape from it, but it's always going to be there in some different unfolding, some manifestation that you might not even want. You might not even know that it's a political game or some manipulation, but that's what it is. So it's hard to get away from politics and religion, whether you're like me and you grew up with an organized faith or if you grew up without that. I feel like it always kind of sneaks up on you, tries to bring you back like the Godfather. As soon as I think I'm out, they pull me back in. That type of mentality. When I was writing my scripts early on in 2021, I had a paper with like, I don't know, 10 or 12 episode ideas. And the first one I wrote, I believe it was called The Last Prisoner. And that's the script I'm going to read through today. It's 47 pages. So it's probably half of what I read yesterday. And most of my features were around 100 pages or so. So this would be more of an hour episode. I think my writing style is very minimalistic. And because of they say every page of a screenplay should be a minute of screen time. So would this be exactly 47 minutes of screen time? I don't think so. I think it'd be more around the hour mark with all the establishment shots and more of the symbolic moments and the way the director wanted to handle these scenes. I believe it would be closer to an hour. And without putting anything filler in there. So this is the first episode of my series. I should probably mention that. These next 12 screenplays that I'm going to be reading, they exist as single episodes of my series that I titled The Madman's Daily Unequivocal Comedy. It's kind of a mouthful, but I just went with that title. I don't know why. I didn't even know what unequivocal meant. I think I had to look that up back then. The Madman's Daily Unequivocal Comedy. I think I got a piece of that inspiration from the book Steppenwolf by Hess. Is that how you say his name? That was one of the first books I read when the pandemic was starting in 2020. Everything was weird, so I pretty much just locked myself in my office at work and just read books all day. That was like the first one I read, the Herman Hesse Steppenwolf, and then I read the Brothers Karamazov. I was like, I'm gonna read a Russian guy, a German guy, and an American guy. I don't remember who the American was. I don't remember now. But yeah, I was really, before I started writing stuff, before I got all manic about my writing in 2020, I still had a job. And during that pandemic crazy experience for like, I don't know, almost half a year, I would just go to work, stay in my office and try not to interact with people and read all day. And then I started working out. I had this whole like good, healthy routine going, but I kind of need to get back there, to be honest. I'm not reading that much right now, and I'm not, besides my own stuff, and I'm not really exercising much. But I said these things come in cycles for me. I'll get real manic with writing, I'll get real manic with exercising, I'll get real manic with reading at some point. But yeah, I'm also trying to make a life change and move across the country right now. And just trying to find a job before I do that. I can't really move and take that risk that, oh yeah, I'll move to Phoenix, Arizona, and there'll be plenty of jobs I can find once I get there. Like, I'm not going to take a gamble like that. I need to have an established, secure, steady job before I head out there to California or Arizona or New Mexico or anywhere else. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff cycling around my head like a hamster wheel. So that brings us to this story, The Last Prisoner. It's episode 1 for the Madman's Daily Unequivocal Comedy. I haven't read this in a long, long time. Somebody gave me a note that this title was actually already used before, but I just really like the title, so I don't think you can copyright a title. And I think I looked it up. It was some maybe album title or I don't know, some movie that never really did anything. So I don't think it's a big deal. It's just the title of the episode. Like you could look at Kung Fu, that series from the 70s with Carradine. And I started watching Kung Fu around this time too. The main influences on this story come from Kung Fu and Easy Rider, believe it or not. Easy Rider isn't a Western, and it's not really in the era that I set this script, but the themes of Easy Rider, and I'll talk about that later, kind of show up in weird manifestations throughout this. And I've only seen Easy Rider, like, seriously, maybe once or twice. All the way through, probably only once. I didn't even know Jack Nicholson was in it. So, yeah, I did watch that movie as I prepared to write this script. It's a Western. This story is a Western. It takes place in the Southwest, probably Arizona or around there. And that's just a great place to film something, man. Like, you think of Westerns, you always think of those crazy cliffs and canyons along the American Southwest. There's a famous place that a lot of those old Westerns were filmed. I forget the location. Maybe it's Nevada or Utah. But if you look at a lot of Western movies from the 50s and 60s, yeah, they're just so beautiful in terms of the cinematography. So this was my attempt to write a Western, but it's not really a typical Western. It also became a tribute to David Bowie in a way. I named the main character Bowie. I just thought it was a cool name, but as I went, I kind of thought it'd be a cool angle to add some David Bowie influence on this. So that's a part of this too. There's a character in this that's kind of a brutish kind of madman of this story. And I pictured Jason Kelsey playing the guy. When I shared this script on my Substack after I wrote it, I did include that. So I'll probably get a picture Jason Kelsey every time I read these lines of dialogue, because he just has that type of primitive look with his beard, like a very intimidating dude that you wouldn't want to fuck with if you were wandering aimlessly through the desert in the Southwest in the late 1800s, which is the story of this script. All right, I guess I'll get right into it so I don't ruin too much. But I did want to mention that because those were the two things that, as I was writing this, came to me. I wrote this character, Foley, that was his name, and yeah, he's supposed to be this madman, brutish dude, super strong dude. And the more I wrote his lines, I was like, man, Jason Kelsey should play this dude. Like in Raising Arizona, which I mentioned before, one of my favorite movies, the Coen brothers. Raising Arizona has Tex Cobb, the dude on the motorcycle. And I think Tex Cobb's actually got a Philadelphia connection. He was like a boxer or athlete or something. So that's what I picture in that character. All right, I'm going to start reading this and probably split it up in maybe two parts. See how it goes as I read it. It has some of my favorite dialogue, and hopefully that means I can get through this pretty quickly. There's not a lot of action, I think. So we're going to fade in now. We are above a frontier town during the daytime, and we're drifting through the clouds over this developing settlement in the Southwest United States. And I put it very, it could be anywhere from the mid to late 1800s, because I'm not a historical scholar, man. I figured the West was getting more settled around those time periods. It could be the late 1800s, or maybe even earlier, as people were getting more settlements out west and building railroads and whatever else. And whenever really Chinese immigration, because I feel like a lot of Chinese people came to America and they were put to work on the railroads. So I have an element of that early on in this story. So around that time period, you don't have to explicitly state it in the movie, but just the way everything would look on screen. So as we drift through these clouds and we're noticing this settlement below in the desert, there's a super and a quote from Aldous Huxley. Wherever the choice has had to be made between the man of reason and the madman, the world has unhesitatingly followed the madman. I'm going to read that again. Wherever the choice has had to be made between the man of reason and the madman, the world has unhesitatingly followed the madman. That's a weird word to say. Unhesitatingly followed the madman. Around this time, I think I was really into Aldous Huxley. I read a lot of his short stories, The Doors of Perception, and I actually end by episode 12 of this series. When I get to the ending, I bookend this with another quote from Huxley. All right, continuing now. So now we're going through this settlement in the desert. Townspeople and workers, they're walking through a busy outdoor market. A blacksmith is pounding on a horseshoe with a hammer. A produce merchant is biting into an apple as other patrons peruse buckets of fruit, berries, nuts, oranges. A butcher nearby is cutting through a large rack of beef ribs as 3 rabbit carcasses hang from a rope behind him. So it's a town, but very early stages of a developing town. Now we meet Bowie. He's in his 20s, handsome, fast-talking slickster in a fancy suit. He's standing in front of a wagon Bowie's Ancient Remedies, written on the side. He winks towards Sabrina, a woman in her 40s who walks aided by a cane, who's standing amongst the townspeople, and she slyly nods back towards him. He is now waving towards the bustling street as he speaks through a bullhorn. Bowie: "Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your attention for just a few minutes, and I will exhibit the secret ancient formula to an interminable, painless, salubrious life." He grabs a fancy bottle from inside his wagon and holds it up like the Holy Grail. Bowie: "I hold in my hands the tonic of the gods themselves, handed down and perfected by Eastern mystics over thousands of years, and now made readily available to one and all, young and old." He points to a dirt-covered man. Bowie: "My good sir, you must spend all your days working the mines, toiling away until every last muscle has reached its culminating pain threshold. Am I correct in my assumption?" Dirt-covered man stares back emotionless. Dirt-covered man: "What the hell do you know about the mines, pretty boy?" The small crowd around the wagon laughs. Bowie: "Fair enough, my good sir, but don't let my fancy suit mislead you. Let me tell you quickly about my upbringing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania." He puts the bullhorn down and paces through the crowd, confidently. Bowie: "My father worked the coal mines like his father before him. My two older brothers came home each night from those same mines, coughing up fits of dust and blood." Dirt-covered man: "What exactly you trying to prove by all that now?" Another working grunt steps forward. Working grunt: "Why don't you come join us in the mines on this very joyous day right now?" Dirt-covered man: "I doubt this here bluebelly has ever earned an honest day's pay." An old miner with a heavy pickaxe lifts it up towards Bowie. Old miner: "None you worry, son. I'll learn you good about a real man's day's work." The crowd laughs as Bowie keeps his cool and regathers his thoughts. Bowie: "I can assure you that my work is just as honest and pure as yours, for I was sent a mission by the heavenly forces themselves to bring healing and peace to all hard-working folk throughout this great country of ours." He unfolds a map from his back pocket and holds it up to the crowd. Bowie: "I have crossed into Appalachia and healed the child's weak lungs so she could once again breathe freely from nature's bountiful bosom." The crowd appears collectively stunned by his fast-talking prowess as he puts his arms around the old miner. Bowie: "Traversed the mighty Blue Ridge Mountains where a woman's warts disappeared off her face in a mere matter of minutes." More curious townspeople join the crowd now as Bowie weaves through them holding up the map. Bowie: "Trekked the mighty Mississippi and healed a family of 4 from dying on their knees at the merciless wrath of dysentery." He grabs the bottle of tonic from his wagon and tosses it to dirt-covered man. Bowie: "What you have there, my fellow pragmatic patriot, is a certified ticket to feeling like a young man again. Strength, peace of mind, the energy to satisfy your every waking desire." He walks behind an elderly, shy woman and massages her neck while she blushes and smiles. Bowie: "Ladies and gentlemen, I left my ancestral roots in the mines of the East, not for money, not fame, not for honors nor praise." Sabrina smiles towards him as she watches his performance from the back of the growing crowd. Bowie: "For all I yearn for from this quick expedition known as life is to help my fellow man and woman reconnect with the purest essence of their mind, body, and spirit." He puts his arm around dirt-covered man. Bowie: Sir, can I be so bold as to ask how much you make a day down in those there mines? Dirt-covered man. I make an honest $2.11 each God-given day that I greet the morning breathing. Bowie. And sir, how much of that stipend would you be willing to spend to experience the vitality of the gods themselves? Dirt-covered man. Well, Bowie, would you pay 40% of that $2.11? He counts on his fingers. Dirt-covered man. What's that now? Bowie. 30%. Dirt-covered man. I can't really say. Bowie. What about 10%? Dirt-covered man. I guess that sounds fair. Bowie grabs the bottle of tonic from his hand, walks up to Sabrina, and bows his head to her. Bowie. Good day, ma'am. She reaches towards him, clutching her cane, and touches his face. Bowie. And how much would you be willing to spend to fully regain the energy and vision of your youth? Sabrina. Well, my good sir, if you mean how much would I spend to see the wondrous blue shades of the sky and the angelic smiles on my children's faces again, there is no such monetary amount in all the banks of this world. Bowie guides her to the wagon, her arm in his. Bowie. Ma'am, your words have hit my heart directly with the full force of a hurricane's gust. They stop by the wagon, where he holds the bottle of tonic up high to the crowd. Bowie. What if I offered you the ability to freely sample the healing benefits of this miraculous nectar right here and right now? Sabrina. Well, I don't quite know. Bowie. What do you say, folks? Do you want to witness a miracle on this here Saturday morning? The crowd cheers in excitement as more people wander over. Bowie. Ma'am, at your pleasing. He hands her the open bottle of tonic and she drinks. Drops her cane, falls to her knees, rubs her eyes and stares towards the bright sunlight. Sabrina. My sweet Jesus in heaven, witness the miracle of miracles. I can once again gaze towards God's glorious creation all around me, just as I did when I was a young woman. Dirt-covered man doesn't appear convinced as he pushes his way closer to the wagon. Dirt-covered man. Just wait 1 minute here. How's we know you can all of a sudden see? Just how many fingers am I holding up, missus? He holds up a balled fist as Sabrina squints towards him. Sabrina. Well, sir, I believe you're holding up no fingers whatsoever. He becomes an instant believer. Dirt-covered man. Well, my God, ever victorious against the devil himself. It's a blazing miracle. The crowd gathers around the wagon, cheering arm to arm, while Bowie sets up shop, placing bottles upon the wagon top. Bowie. Ladies and gentlemen, one at a time, rest assured that there is enough for each and every personage here today. 3 townswomen hug Sabrina and lead her away from the raucous crowd, while she turns her head back towards Bowie and shares a wry smile with him. Alright, so that's pretty long first scene, but it's very fast moving. We get an instant introduction to Bowie as he's just a snake oil salesman in the Old West, and he's selling this tonic that's probably made of nothing really. I feel like I should have done some research. Old medications of the past from that time period, it was like cocaine and shit. They just put like morphine and everything. I think even Bayer, like that Bayer aspirin, whatever it's called, used to use like heroin or some drug like that. Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it before all the regulations of shit. So yeah, he's just selling this snake oil and he's a really good salesman, and Sabrina is kind of, the plant trying to make that final sale of all the non-believers. So that's all he is. This short scene gets right to Bowie's character. He's a con man. He rips people off with, well, this is his business right now, selling snake oil to people. So yeah, it's a good opening scene that gets right to the point. This story is going to be about Bowie. He's the one with most of the dialogue throughout this, as he tries to sell his tonic to these people. And I don't know, I'm kind of speaking in southern accents again, kind of. I don't know what these people would sound like. People who moved to the West, I guess some of them are from the South, so there might be some southern accents. I don't know, man. Somebody else can determine, the actors and whatever can determine what kind of accents would be proper to use here. All right, we're moving to later in the day at a workers' barracks. Bowie is walking past Chinese railroad workers covered in sweat and dirt, surrounded by rough, unsanitary living conditions. In the back of one of these shacks is Bao, B-A-O, I think you pronounce it Bao. He's in his 30s, stature of a Chinese imperial. He's practicing Tai Chi. He's a master, performing exquisite body motions with his eyes shut, body and mind at peace, with beautiful scenic desert canyons behind him. So yeah, there's a lot of kung fu in this story. That the way that show was filmed was so cool. Bowie leans against the wall of the shack and watches him. Bowie: if I didn't already know you, Bao, I would swear you were a lady practicing the delicate artistry of the ballet. Bao continues his graceful movements. Bao: why are Americans so obsessed with perceptions of grit? Bowie: I don't quite know the answer to that one, but I do consider you yourself as American as the next, so maybe you can provide me some words of enlightenment. Bao finishes his Tai Chi, smiles like a prince, and holds his hand over Bowie's heart. Bao: never look to the external for enlightenment. Listen to the beating machinery within to discover purest truth. Bowie: don't think you want me diddling around with the truth. Bowie grabs a stack of cash out of his suit pocket and hands half to Bao. Bowie: would put us out of business. Bao counts his money. Bowie: what, still don't trust me? Bao: never trust a swindler, especially when in business with one. Bowie: what is that, Confucius? He pins Bowie against the wall. Bowie: easy, tiger. Lifts up Bowie's pants leg, removes a wad of cash out of his sock, and keeps half for himself. Hands the rest back to Bowie. Bao: your salesmanship is quickly improving. Bowie regathers himself. Bowie, under his breath: not quite with you, though. We're quickly moving to that night, and we're inside an opium den now. Again, yeah, that was a thing, right? I don't think I'm just making this up. I think that was a thing. A lot of Chinese immigrants were used as railroad workers, and I feel like maybe they brought that opium type of experience. I could be completely wrong here, but I feel like that was a part of the West were opium dens. It was the Wild West. A lot of these places didn't give a shit. You could do whatever the hell you wanted. I don't know. I guess I could research that more, but I feel like it is a thing. So I have this opium den. It's nighttime. As a lot of the Chinese workers and patrons of all races, shapes, and sizes are kind of just enjoying themselves in this drug drug utopia in this dark candlelit room full of booze, prostitutes, and opium use. Bowie and Bao lay on an ornate rug as Bowie exhales a large plume of smoke from a hookah pipe. Bowie: in a few years, this whole area will be full of exploitable Yanks, full of inheritances to squander, with delusions of gold in their eyes and God-fearing ignorance. Bao smokes from the same pipe. Bao: when this railroad is complete, people who look like me will be kicked out, left to be buried in the desert. Bowie: which is why we need to make as much money now as we possibly can. Bao: if we can just... Bao rolls over and kisses him. Bao: no more talk of business tonight. The two men share more opium from the pipe as Sabrina walks over in a tight, sexy dress and sits down on Bowie's face. He loves it and groans with pleasure. Sabrina: I swear you are developing Satan's tongue like no other I have before experienced. Bowie, mumbling. So she's sitting on his face. So he's kind of mumbling, trying to talk. Whatever could you mean by that, my dear wicked Jezebel? She sits down harder onto his face. Sabrina: that performance today was the best yet. Told you going at this solo was far too much to bear. Bowie: with you at the helm, we are bound for glory. Sabrina: you really should have seen him today, Bao. He had the entire crowd eating from his palm. Could have sold them his own urine if he wanted. Bao: far too much power for any man to wield. He's kind of saying that jokingly, like trying to be funny, glib about it. Sabrina: or woman. She bends over and kisses Bao. Alright, so that's the trio of this con. All three of them are working together. You got Bao, he's a Chinese worker. He's the one producing the actual tonic and bottling it, and Bowie's the salesman, and Sabrina is their plant in the crowd. So that's their con they have working. They're probably, I look at it like they go from town to town and just try to scam people and then get the hell out before, trouble happens, before these people wise up to these criminals. All right, later that night in the opium den back room, Bowie, Sabrina, and Bao are having group sex with two female prostitutes. One of them is a heavy-set prostitute, and she's riding on top of the drug-dazed Bowie. His neck is outstretched as he stares at himself in the mirror. This prostitute puts a pipe into his mouth, and he inhales. And I guess they're smoking opium here. I believe you can smoke opium. That's how they did it, right? Opium pipes. You just it's like a clay or something, right? I don't know. I'm not experienced with that, but I'm pretty sure they would just smoke it. All right. So as Bowie inhales this drug, he starts to have quick flashes, like these drug visions in his head. And I put this as a montage. These are very quick flashes that we would see. Bowie, like premonitions of the future or omens, like that type of an experience. Bowie is sitting cross-legged alone in the desert, smoking opium from a hookah. Bowie is naked, laying down in the middle of the woods, shivering, covered only by some leaves and mud. He rises and stares at himself at a mirror that hangs from a pine tree. An unknown woman with a black scorpion tattoo on her back moans with pleasure as she rides on top of Bowie near a river. Bowie now sits cross-legged alone in the desert as his nose grows long like Pinocchio. Bowie now sits against a tree in the woods as a shotgun fires and flowers grow out of his chest. The unknown woman's black scorpion tattoo comes to life in this next scene as she rides Bowie faster and faster. The scorpion crawls onto his face as he freezes in fear. Bowie now sits cross-legged alone in the desert as crows are flying out of his huge nostrils. So he still has that long, outstretched Pinocchio nose. And these crows come out of his nose and start pecking at his eyeballs. So it gets kind of dark in in some of these scenes. These are very quick, almost like quick flashes in his head as he's smoking this opium out of the pipe. All right, so now that's how that scene ends, from these crows pecking at his eyeballs. That's the end of the montage. And we do a hard cut here to the opium den in that same back room, but now it's the morning as Bowie rises from his slumber, almost like he's having a bad dream or something. And the two prostitutes are sleeping on both sides of him as a loud commotion stirs from outside. Male voice from outside. We don't see this person. It's just off screen yelling, "Where is the white man?" Bowie gazes out the window towards a small group of townspeople carrying guns and sharp tools as they enter the den's front door. He quickly puts his clothes on and tries to wake Bao by shaking him, as Bao is snoring on the floor, bottle of whiskey at his side. Bowie, "Bao, wake up, Bao." Bao turns over to his side and slightly opens his eyes. Bowie, "Looks like a mob of unhappy customers. Maybe another bad batch." He swigs from the whiskey bottle. Bao, "I told you to get rid of the older bottles." Bowie, "You really think I keep track of things like that?" Bao rises up, then collapses onto the bed with the two prostitutes. He's too drunk and hungover to move at this point. Bowie, "Bao, get up, Bao." Bowie gives up, trying to wake him up, and hurries to the door, carrying his shoes. This is kind of continuous. Now Bowie exits that room and he's in the hallway trying to put his shoes on as he rushes away from the room. Just as the small group of townspeople spot him, the town priest in his 60s, gritty son of a bitch, leads the group, pointing an old rusty shotgun towards Bowie. Town priest, "Don't move an inch, you wretched heathen." Bowie freezes and raises his arms up as the town priest walks towards him with a young father who cradles his young daughter's corpse in his arms, and a young mother who has the wrath of God in her eyes. The priest shoves the shotgun into Bowie's chest. Bowie, "What is all this? I don't understand." He pokes the shotgun under Bowie's chin. Town priest, "Half the folk drank your tonic ended up sick, convulsing, scorching fevers." The young father holds out his dead daughter towards Bowie. Young father, "You killed my only child." The young mother spits on Bowie and smacks him in the face over and over. Young mother, "You rot in hell." Bowie falls to the ground. Bowie, "There must be some other explanation of logic. You see, I am not the one who makes this tonic." The town priest takes a bottle of Bowie's tonic out of his pocket. Town priest, "Well, then who is the purveyor of this here poison that so damned this town with plague?" shoves the shotgun harder into Bowie's side as Bowie opens the door to the back room. Opium den. We're now moving back to that back room as Bal is having morning group sex now with the two prostitutes. So he woke up kind of quickly and he's having sex with these two prostitutes. Bowie starts the dialogue here. It is this here sorcerer who has infested your town. The town priest stands in shock, standing with the young couple. Town priest. What of this odious perversion? The priest is pointing the shotgun towards Bal now, and the group sex freezes as Bowie stares towards Bal, trying to hide his shame. It's a very quick scene now, but this really is an important scene because it shows that Bowie's just a coward. He's going to sell out his friend and, yeah, his lover too. Bowie's just kind of a pleasure seeker. He just has sex with anything. He has all kinds of drugs, and he's just involved in that mindset of hedonism? Yeah, that type of experience. But yeah, he's a con man, but he's also a cowardly type of guy who's selling out his own friend and business associates. All right, from that scene, we left with the priest pointing the shotgun towards Bal as the sex is now freezing and the two prostitutes are probably trying to run away. We're now outside moments later as the town priest is dragging the bloodied Bal onto the street, so they probably already started beating the guy. As the other townspeople spit on him and violently kick his face and ribs. Town priest. By decree of the Holy Trinity above and within all men, I sentence thee to death on this very day, at this very den of the devil's most noted perversions. He presses the shotgun to Bal's head. Town priest. If your kind have any gods, you should beg for forgiving mercy at this very second. Without a second thought, he shoots him dead. Just as two burly townspeople are carrying Bowie outside, and they just toss him onto the street next to Bal's corpse. Town priest. And as for you, heathen, he points the shotgun at Bowie's head. As Bowie crawls away from him, hands in front of his face, trying to beg for his life. Bowie. Wait, please. I swear no part in this here misdeed. I am truly but another victim. The town priest stands over him. Town priest. You have plunged this God-fearing town into fiendish depths with your wicked lies and deceit. Points the shotgun at Bowie's face. Bowie. Please, I'm an innocent. This man who lays dead next to me threatened constant with torture if I not participate in his devious ventures. The town priest is squinting down at him, ready to shoot. But by the look in his eye, you kind of see he's considering what he should do. This is also a look at, he had no problems killing the Chinese dude, but now he sees this white guy who's a fast talker. So it's like just that inherent racism too, a little bit. That was definitely a part of that time period. All right, so the town priest is trying to figure out what he should do. Should he shoot Bowie or let him go? Town priest, well, son, I guess that is left for some other man of higher standing to judge. He pulls the shotgun away. Town priest, but my initial impressions never fail me. And not even your tricks of tongue will be able to save you when your rightful judgment unabashedly rides by. The priest walks away. as the other angry townspeople stomp Bowie in the face mercilessly. As Bowie stares towards the young father, cradling his dead daughter in his arms, then towards Bal's disfigured corpse. One of the townspeople now hits Bowie over the head with a silver shovel, knocking him out cold. And that's how that scene is going to end. So, yeah, you can tell. Hopefully, I'm proving that point. I'm not trying to put filler in these stories, man. I could take 30 pages and and really flesh out these characters. Like if this was a series, right? And Bowie, this had to be a 10 episode HBO series about Bowie's life in the Wild West and his cons and his dealings and his work with Bal. You could flesh all those out and make an entire 10 episode series based on these characters. You really could, because I think a lot of people are interested in the Wild West. The sex, the drugs, the violence, the threat of Native Americans and cowboys, that whole conflict, and disease and snakes and all this shit. The Wild West is just there's a reason it became a genre of its own. It's just such a good way to, just like science fiction, you can portray so many different morality tales through the Wild West because people were kind of on their own. A lot of the settlers that moved west, they probably didn't make it. What was I listening to? I forget. Like the people who stopped at like the deserts of New Mexico or Arizona, where they knew we're probably not going to be able to grow food on this desert soil, but people still stopped there and survived somehow, animal husbandry or other ways. So yeah, I'm always been interested. It's probably why I want to move out there. New Mexico, Arizona, or California, even parts of Texas. Like there's so much cool history like that I've never really experienced being in those areas. So that, yeah, I guess there's a part of that in me as well. But yeah, what I was saying when I first started this tangent, you could make a whole series on this. Bowie, I believe, is an interesting enough character, but I'm not doing that with this series. I'm trying to have no filler at all. So this story is bang, 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 bang. You don't put any scenes in these scripts that do not move the story forward. That's what my philosophy is and still is. So whether this is 50-minute episode or an hour, to me it doesn't matter as long as the story is promoted more than anything else. The story that I'm trying and the themes I'm trying to hit on is the only reason I wrote a story like this. For every episode of this series, some of them are 70 pages long, some of them are more like this, about 50 pages long. But again, you don't really know until you film these scenes how the actors respond to these atmospheres and stuff, of how everything will come out in the end and how long the episode will really be. All right, let me continue. We're moving right to another major part of this story. Yeah, we left off with Bowie getting knocked out cold as this town's man smacks him over the head with a silver shovel. Now we are going to 1 month later, which would be superimposed on the screen. We are in the desert and inside a horse-drawn wagon, as the horse-drawn wagon, open wagon, is riding over the beautiful desert landscape. Bowie, with a scruffy beard now, sits in the back, chained at the wrist to two other prisoners, On his left is Foley in his 30s. He's a complete madman and a brutish barbarian. On his right is Len. I put him in his 20s. He's a Native American. He's kind of a stoic, empty gaze, like his soul was already taken from him. All right, so Foley begins this dialogue, these three men chained together at the wrist, as Foley is laughing like a madman mid-conversation. Foley: "So I tells her, if you want to keep your lips attached to your face, you better start servicing my friend here." He's pointing down to his crotch. Foley: "Like you've never serviced any man's nether regions previous." Bowie fakes a smile to keep the peace as Foley eyes him. Foley: "And wouldn't you know, my two brothers in chains, as we sit here headed for the hangman's noose. Oh, holy fallen Lucifer above and below, did she ever respond to that threatening elocution?" Foley laughs like a madman, spitting up mucus, while Len and Bowie eye each other, both disgusted by his vile story. Foley: "Of course I still ended up slicing her neck on the soon after, but I left her lips alone, as I am a man of my word, no less." 5 Native Americans on horseback now quickly approach the wagon. One of them, named Toko, T-O-C-H-O, I pronounce it as Toko. I think I was looking up Native American names, but, it could be anything if something is better. Toko is the alpha with war paint all over his face and very muscular body. And he's the one leading the charge of these 5 natives on horseback. Foley notices the natives charge as they war chant in intimidating unison, and he smiles wide. Foley: "What is all this about now?" The 4 guards on the side of the wagon prepare for battle. One of them, heavily bearded guard, in his 40s, spits out a wad of tobacco. Heavily bearded guard, calmly to himself: "Do not reckon this will end well." He's saying that like, oh shit, I can't believe this is happening. But he's trying to stay calm as these natives are about to fucking chop his fucking head off. Alright, so he pulls out his rifle, aims, and fires, as the other guards grab their rifles in a panic and do the same. 2 of the guards reload their weapons as the natives charge closer, but fall over from arrows to their chest. Okay, now I'm reading this wrong. So the 2 guards are reloading their weapons, but the natives are charging closer. As they're loading them, they get shot by these arrows and fall over. The 2 other guards jump upon the horses as they watch their other friends die, as the wagon driver leads them faster and faster. So they're just trying to flee for their lives at this point. They thought they could fight these people off, and now they're like, fuck this, let's just get the hell out of here. Toko rides alongside the wagon with one of his companions, staring towards the prisoners. Len stares back at him, emotionless. Bowie shuts his eyes, face white with fear. Foley appears happy as can be as he pats the others on the back. Foley: "Gentlemen, the gods smile upon us all, even rejects of the demon's excrement." He rises and pulls them both upright. So they're all chained together, so you kind of have to picture it like that. Like this is a 3-man centipede. They're all chained together. Foley: "Better join me now, if you'd rather keep your limbs. Head for the canyons." The 3 prisoners jump out of the wagon and collide with Toko's companion, who falls off his horse. So they just happen to jump out and fall upon the other native and knock him off his horse. And Foley, once they hit the ground, Foley jumps on this guy and hits him like a bear and quickly chokes him to death with the chain as Toko charges towards them. I guess he's holding some kind of a tomahawk or some weapon like that. That's kind of how I picture it. The three prisoners rise up and sprint towards the canyons, Bowie struggling to keep up as he gets dragged along in the dirt by the others. Foley leads the way with Herculean strength as they climb up some high canyons, while Toko dismounts his horse and follows on foot right on their tail. The three prisoners crouch down onto a large tree log, acting as a bridge between two high cliffs, and they now begin to cross, maneuvering as best they can, improvise into panic. They shimmy past the middle of this tree log, as Bowie slips off but is saved by Len, who grabs his arm and pulls him up to safety. They then safely reach the other side across this tree log as Foley pushes the huge tree stump from the cliff so Toko can't follow them, and he's now laughing heartily at his feat of strength as Toko stares towards Len from the other side. Foley to Len: "Old lover of yours." Len ignores him as he pats him hard on the back. Foley: Do you not yet feel the bond growing between us now, my new Hopi brother, as we strive to maintain our necks? Foley hugs Len as Len instantly pushes him away. Len: "I am not your brother. You are not Hopi, nor a man." Foley pats him hard on the shoulder. Foley: "Could not be more correct about that last part." Foley laughs like a maniac. Foley laughs like a maniac as they walk towards a forest in the distance. So yeah, it's a desert landscape, but I figured there'd be a little bit of a forest region nearby that they're walking towards. It could be in the far distance, just this distant horizon of trees that they notice. Because I'm sure there's parts of Arizona like that. It's not just completely all desert. There's mountains, there's canyons, there's forest regions. So that's what I'm going for. I just picked Hopi. I don't know. I think I did a little bit of research of what kind of natives were around the Southwest, and I just picked one. I don't know. That could be changed if it's not historically accurate or whatever, but to me, it's not a big deal. If I made Len, he's a native, I made him a Hopi tribe, just because I wanted to have some dialogue like that, and to make it maybe more realistic in that way. Because I think somebody mentioned that. Somebody read my script and was mentioning stuff like that. But yeah, these little details could always be ironed out later. So this is where we have the story now. These three prisoners. We know what Bowie did, but we don't know what Foley really was going to go hang for, or what Len did. So it's still kind of a mysterious thing. But from what we can tell, Foley is kind of a madman. He's probably killed, dozens of people. He's like the original serial killer of the Southwest, of the frontier. And Len is just kind of the quiet, reserved, stoic type of guy, which probably the audience wouldn't have a read on him yet. And Bowie is Bowie. You kind of already know Bowie's character. So these three men are just chained together, and they're trying to escape now into the forest region. So they finally get to the forest. Now it's hours later, the same day, as they're still chained to each other. The sun is now beginning to set as Foley urinates on some bushes, while Len and Bowie turn their heads away in disgust. He urinates directly on the Bowie shoes and laughs like a madman. Foley. Nature calls, my dear consort, whether chained or as statue of free-balling liberty. He finishes his business and the three prisoners walk through a forest of pine trees, Foley leading the way with his usual maniacal grin. Foley. Vengeance, justice, bloodlust, fatuous terms to divide hangman from hanged. He turns and pats Bowie in the gut. Foley. What term would describe your impending meeting with the noose? Bowie stands tongue-tied, smiling at Foley. Foley. Don't be shy now, my pretty one. We are chained as one, not only in body, but in mind and spirit. No secrets shall be kept between this depraved triumvirate. Bowie remains silent. Foley. Well, by your stature, I will assume you must have gotten into some circuitous business with the worst type of associates and came out on the wrong side of that bloodthirsty gambit of greed and thuggery, upon which there can be no venture less roughshod. Bowie stares towards the ground as Foley eyes Len. Foley. And you, Hopi man? Len fearlessly stares into Foley's eyes. Foley. I will construe your deathly glare as a recommendation to quickly change topic. But I must counter that the best medicine is to free yourself from the standards of civility this broken humanity currently prescribes upon us caged specimens. They walk farther in silence as some deer in the distance spot them and scatter off in fright. Foley. Run, 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 only to run some more. Run from life, from death, from fear, from lawless cynicism, aided by disloyalty's compass. If ever there was a single cause worthy of man's loyalty, since this whole show commenced with that cursed apple. Foley pauses and watches the deer scamper farther away. Foley. Run until you affirm the knowledge that every man runs right along with you in this pageantry from something burning deep within his gut. He squints deeply into Bowie's eyes, towering over him, while poking him in the chest. Foley. 'Tis bloodlust that always seemed to burn within for this here barbarian, from birth onward to continue the curse. Will free and sin original. After a few moments of tension, Foley laughs directly into Bowie's face, covering him in spittle. Foley through manic laughter. No need to worry your bantam hearts, my beloved fellow travelers. I have learned to govern this bloodlust constantly erupting, turning my blood to hellfire. They walk farther into the wilderness. Foley. Maybe more limit than govern. But there we go again, using loose terms to divide and define what motivates. Bowie and Len eye each other, both appearing concerned with Foley's manic behaviors and nonsensical speech. Foley. Nonetheless, we are melded in Trinity's prowess and must sashay our current path as a united front. For now, at least. Alright, I'm going to take a little breather there. So, yeah, Foley's a madman. He's probably raped. He's probably killed people, tortured people. He's a total barbarian dude. And I thought it would be cool to also have him have these long-winded Old English discussions like this. He's really talking to himself. But, he's just ranting as he's walking. We started this scene. He's kind of claiming dominance by pissing on Bowie's shoes because they're still chained together. they can't separate each other and just go their own way, yet they're chained by the leg or by the arms, at least by the wrist. I'm not sure how many chains are really on them, but they can't separate and move on. They have to stay together. So you got to think of it like, yeah, you're chained to this fucking crazy, monstrous dude, and they probably just met him. That's how I kind of set up the scene. They were all chained together, ready to go to the hangman, and now they escaped, and they're just trying to figure out what the fuck to do at this point. But Foley's just kind of that guy with some of these words that I used. I don't even remember what they mean, but I had to write this character as Foley the best I could with a different type of dialogue that I usually do because it's the Wild West. I don't know why I'm giving him a southern accent, kind of, but maybe just from past movies I've watched with villains from that time period. I don't know, man. I really don't know what he would sound like. Just a very brutish type of guy. And it makes sense. Like, the people who moved west were from the South. Like, they had that accent. So it's not out of the ordinary too much. Maybe they changed their accent a little over the generations, but not like people from the North didn't also move west. But I don't know. I'm not a historical scholar, man. People are probably listening to this and being like, well, you don't know about that and that. Like, yeah, of course I don't. But the main thing is Foley's a madman. He's one of my favorite characters. And yeah, this was just how the dialogue that came out in this scene was as I was trying to form his character. And I think I might have added this scene even later, like after I wrote the whole script. So maybe he was already fully developed by that point. I'm going to read a little bit more and then take a break in between these. All right. So we just had that somewhat intense scene where Foley's, expressing his dominance and kind of questioning Bowie and Len to kind of find out what they're all about. And Len and Bowie are both just like trying to stay quiet because at any moment Foley can just go nuts and smash their heads with the chains or do something crazy. Now we're going to be at nighttime in this forest as the three prisoners are sitting snugly together, shivering in the cold, surrounded by tall pine trees. Len sparks a flame using two stones as friction, and slowly grows the campfire while Foley grins. Foley towards Bowie. Well, there goes all my hankering into biting off your hand this night in pursuits of my freedom on the solo. So he's just happy that there's a fire now and he could actually sleep with some heat. Foley lays down on his back and shuts his eyes. Foley might be best as a three-pronged unit of attack. The Injun, the coward, and the self-described barbarian, roaming the countryside like a stray chimera, out for blood and unqualifiable chaos. He chuckles, stretches out his legs, then dozes off as Bowie eyes Len. Bowie whispering, "Hey, thanks for saving me earlier. I'm Bowie." Len lays down and shuts his eyes as Bowie leans in closer. Bowie whispering, "I think we need to come up with a plan here." Len, "Go to sleep, coward man." Bowie tries again. Bowie whispering, "I think you are a reasonable fellow like myself. A relation of trust can be had, between us. But this here brute will pull both our arms clean off if we don't think of better outcomes fast." Foley scratches his chin. while he's trying to sleep with his eyes closed. Foley, stop with your machinations and plotting. Sandman's a calling. So he's aware, but he just doesn't give a shit. He just knows he could totally maul both of these other people. Len and Foley are now sleeping. Well, Len's almost the same. Len doesn't really fear anything either. Both of these guys are kind of just like at this point where different motivations, but they both don't fear death at all. And Bowie's the complete opposite. He's just a coward who's never had a fight in his life, never had to fend for himself at all. If it wasn't for his fast-talking mouth, yeah, he'd just probably be dead at this point. Len and Foley now sleep soundly through the howls of wolves and coyotes, while Bowie's eyes stay wide open. All right, I'll continue. I'm on page 20 right now. I'll try to get to like page 25 or so. All right, now we're at the next day. These three prisoners are still attached by the chains. You could probably show maybe a little scene there as they're around the fire. Maybe Foley's trying to rip the chains apart with his arms because he's so strong, but even he can't do it. These chains are just so strong that they're unbreakable at this point. An old rancher in his 70s whistles a happy gospel tune to himself, his hat over his eyes to block the sun, while his loyal dog barks towards the three prisoners approaching. So this is a nice homestead ranch in the middle of the frontier with no one else really around. Not a lot of neighbors in this remote area. Old rancher. What's the meaning for all that racket, Trixie girl? He removes his hat just as Foley grabs an axe from a wooden stump and splits his head in two. Blood squirts all over as Bowie vomits his guts up and Len calmly cleans blood from his forehead. So again, Foley's a psychopath. Yeah. He doesn't try to talk to this guy. He just splits his head in two. Foley now pushes Bowie down and tries to break the chain around their wrist with the axe. Just as an arrow whizzes by his face, hitting the dead old rancher in the chest. The four remaining natives from the wagon attack charge on horseback as Foley squints, aims, and launches the axe with all his might, hitting one of the natives directly in the face. Foley, 2 axe dispatches in the same morning. I do believe that is a new record. You could say 2 axe dispatches on the same morning, in the same morning, on the same, it doesn't matter. More arrows whiz by as the 3 prisoners run towards a large barn. Inside this large barn, the 3 prisoners shut the door and pull down a large piece of wood to secure the latch. Foley to Len. 'Tis your kin be causing all this mayhem, of which the amusement I will not complain. Foley grabs a wrought iron poker, like one of those pokers in the fireplace, with a sharp edge, off the ground and stuffs it into the back of his shirt, while the 3 remaining natives pound on the door, make no progress, but then set the barn on fire. Foley tackles Len to the ground. Foley, what exactly is the gripe of these Injuns out there, fixing to end us 3 here and now in this blazing purgatory? Flames spread all over the barn. Bowie, we don't have time for this quarreling. Let him off, barbarian. Foley presses his elbow down onto Len's throat. Foley, unquestioned truth. Come out with it now or see your last sunrise. Len doesn't attempt to fight back. as Bowie tries to push Foley off with little success. Bowie: no matter the cause, we are set to be fried as bacon, skinned to rot as antelope, sent to greater fires than these. Foley laughs and gets off of Len. Foley: this engine fears not death. You speak of bacon and damnation. This voracious roll of sage I am not so accustomed. The three of them climb up a ladder together to a high ledge as Foley leads the charge towards a large barn window. Bowie: wait, I know what you were thinking, but let's not rush. Before he can get the words out, Foley smiles wide ear to ear and leads the charge as they all jump out the window together. Now we're outside moments later as the three prisoners just crashed through the window, landed on the ground with just minor scrapes and bruises, or, they didn't break any bones or anything. And they're running towards a tied up large horse. Bowie: stop this madness. We cannot all three men ride together. Foley: do not be so bold to proclaim yourself a man. So he's like joking there. He'd probably be laughing this whole time. Foley, if it's not understood, he loves this shit. He likes the action, the near-death stuff. He lives for that, so he loves all this action. He's probably laughing throughout this whole thing. Foley now rides the horse towards the forest. Len behind him, Bowie in his front, facing him. Chains dangerously pulling at his wrist, while the flames and heavy smoke engulf the barn in the background. Bowie: you monstrosity of utter lunacy, you're gonna rip my hand clean off. Foley: would you rather be dropped back there to be scalped? He pats the horse to ride faster. Foley: just enjoy the adventure. Like the tales of old English lore, I will be king and you will be queen. Foley makes kissy lips towards Bowie, then laughs like a madman. So yeah, somebody who read my screenplay said, you can't put three people on a horse. That's against labor laws or animal cruelty. I don't fucking know. If it doesn't work, well then figure something else out. Have the horse with like two people on there and the third guy is kind of like being dragged on the side, or I don't know, use CGI. I don't know the answer to that. It would have to be up to how people, of course you don't want to hurt the horse. Yeah, I'm not trying to make light of that, but you can't put three people on a horse if it's too much weight for like this short scene. Then you just have to come up with a better solution to that. Maybe have a stuntman like kind of hanging off the side of the horse as the two other men are on top. Or maybe Foley's the only one riding the horse and the two other stuntmen are just being dragged along the side. I don't know these things, man. I figured I would mention it because maybe it's a legitimate concern, but I don't know. I don't know how this shit works. I feel like it's been done in movies where people get dragged by horseback, or they're even like City Slickers, or that Billy Crystal movie. Didn't they like get dragged on the side of the horse? I don't know. Whatever it is, whatever it has to be, it can become something else. If it's really an issue, you can't get a horse, and they escape the fucking barn on fire and they just run and whatever. It wouldn't be as interesting though. I feel like the horse would make it more of a fun ride for the audience. But yeah, it all depends on all those things I talked about. You don't want to injure any animals. Like, I'm a vegan, so yeah, I'm totally on board with that. That's one of the reasons I don't eat animal products. Yeah. I'm a fan of animals, so yeah, I'm not going to be promoting fucking up a horse for a stupid scene like that. But it's just how it is. Whatever it becomes, it becomes. All right. I'll read maybe one more page and then I'll stop here. I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to stop at this part. I'm on page 23 now because that was still daytime. Now we're moving to the night. So I'll just stop here and come back in a couple hours and finish this. So, yeah, you could see Foley is the main character here. I didn't really intend to be like that, but when I put this together, I just fell in love with the Foley character. I just pictured Tex Cobb from Raising Arizona or Jason Kelsey because he's kind of that brutish dude. If you watch his legendary speech after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and he's like a WWE wrestler, and he's just cursing and going ranting like a madman. And I'm like, dude, now he would be so good for this. I don't know if Jason Kelsey wants to get into acting, but he does his podcasting, he does commercials, he does his Christmas album, like a bunch of Eagle players recorded music together. So he's definitely not afraid to put himself out there. And he could do these lines way better than I'm doing them. So yeah, I picture if it's not going to be Jason Kelsey, and just from a marketing angle, if you got Jason Kelsey to act in this, it's not only going to get every person in Philadelphia excited to watch this, but I feel like Jason Kelsey is a national name. People would be interested to watch a football player try to act like the dude that was in Police Academy. Wasn't he a football player? That big black dude, Hightower. Wasn't he like a football player or something? Or Jim Brown did it. I can't really name any movies he was in, but Jim Brown. Who else? There's so many. There's a lot of athletes that became actors. I can't think of any though. Offhand, I'm blanking on this. But Brian Bosworth, didn't he become? Didn't he become an actor in the '80s, like a action type of dude? You could say Hulk Hogan, Suburban Commando. He did a couple movies. Wasn't Jesse Ventura? He did shit. He was in Predator, wasn't he? Well, you could say Schwarzenegger too. He was an athlete. He's a bodybuilder. So there is a. I feel like if you could be in the Eagles locker room during that time period when they were going to the Super Bowl, I feel like Jason Kelsey would be the one getting the troops ready for battle. He just seemed like that voice and people would want to fight for, there's probably examples of that, but you could look up his Super Bowl speech. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know who Jason Kelsey is, go look up his 2018 Super Bowl speech where he's dressed up like a mummer, and you could quickly realize what I'm talking about with the character like Foley, who's kind of just this bearded, crazy madman barbarian that can't be controlled by anybody. He's just almost like the devil in a human form or some kind of demonic entity inside of him. And yeah, I think Jason Kelsey could pull it off. Or if not him, then somebody with that same type of a look and same type of a body type like that could just maul somebody. Like one time I met John Runyon, and I think I shook his hand. It was like at a bar, and his hand was seriously like the size of my face. So yeah, there's some giant people that could play this role. That I just picture Jason Kelsey because he has that crazy beard, and he's that type of tough dude, man. And yeah, somebody to that effect would play that role. And yeah, I feel like he would be up for that challenge to go into acting like that. It would be cool, and it would get publicity from people who like sports would be like, Did you hear Jason Kelsey is trying acting now? Even Shaq, Shaq tried acting. He kind of didn't make it. Or LeBron did it too, right? Or like Space Jam 2. There's an appeal to that. I feel like actors and athletes have that same type of, what's the word? I can't think of the word. They have that same type of I can't think of it, of this appeal that they want to be in front of people and they know how to be charismatic. Yeah, that's the word I couldn't think of. Charismatic. You look at these athletes, like remember Richard Sherman after maybe not the Super Bowl, but maybe the NFC Championship game. Richard Sherman was being like interviewed by a female reporter, and he's just going crazy. Like I forget what he was talking about, but he was pretty funny. Or Marshawn Lynch when he was doing his thing. Yeah, like a lot of these athletes have over the top personalities that would work on the big screen if they practice acting enough. I'll look up the Tex Cobb before I finish this because he was the main inspiration. If you watch Raising Arizona, he's the guy on the motorcycle with the beard and I think he has a shotgun. Yeah, he like shoots the turtle or something on the desert. I'm just gonna look up Tex Cobb. I believe he has a Philadelphia connection. Tex Cobb. He was an American actor, martial artist, and former professional boxer. Yeah, so he was a heavyweight boxer, born May 7th, 1950. So he fought a lot of famous people. I don't know boxing, but I recognize some of these names. Larry Holmes, Leon Spinks. I've heard that name. But yeah, he was a black belt, born in Texas. All right. Isn't there a Philadelphia connection though? For some reason, I thought he had a connection to Philadelphia. But I guess not. But he acted in a lot of stuff. He was in Police Academy too. Yeah, I forgot about that. He was in Police Academy 4, Ace Ventura. I didn't even realize he was in that. Or Liar Liar, The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy, Naked Gun, Ernest Goes to Jail, and Highlander. He was in Married with Children, Moonlighting, Walker, Texas Ranger, MacGyver, and the X-Files. Yeah, he's been in a lot of shit, man. But they mention here on Wikipedia, one of his most memorable roles is the outlaw biker bounty hunter Leonard Smalls in the 1987 Coen Brothers film Raising Arizona. Joel Cohen described Cobb as difficult to work with. He's less an actor than a force of nature. All right, so yeah. Well, it says he lives in Philadelphia, but I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to look up his Wikipedia page because he was the first person I had in mind of how to model the character of Foley. Because you notice through these first 23 pages, it's not Bowie who has the most dialogue really, except for that first scene. Foley takes over the movie. From the scene in the wagon as they escape into the forest, Foley's the one that leads that. He's the most. He would be the most memorable character. He has the most lines of dialogue, and he's the leader of that triumvirate of prisoners. So I had to make his character as appealing as possible, just for myself as I was writing it. His overbearing personality took over the every scene he was in, and yeah, I just kind of fell in love with writing these. I don't know if you want to call these his dialogue. It's kind of like old English, but I don't know how people talked in the old West. I'm just going by other movies I've seen and other like Back to the Future Part 3 and I don't know, West Deadwood. That was a good show. You cocksucker. Uh, I'm trying to think of other westerns besides like Clint Eastwood stuff. But I was also watching a lot of kung fu episodes, so maybe that was in my head. But I feel like a lot of those episodes, um, I don't think people spoke with a southern accent. I don't really know how these characters would sound to that much of a detailed angle. I don't know. Somebody else would have to really. Well, I feel like whoever would play these roles would claim that and make these characters how they want to make it. So that's totally how it should be. I'm just trying to give a guideline of how I picture these scenes in my head. But I'm going to continue later. I got another 25 pages to go about, and then I'll talk more about some of the themes and the general feelings of this one, why I chose to open my series with this story, and anything else I want to talk about in my next recording. Yeah, this is good. I could probably get through one of these a day. I look at it almost like I'm doing a podcast, but it's just about these scripts. Like if I was in a real writer's room with other people, how would I approach this story and pitch it to someone? Not just a simple log line, but how do I describe what I'm going for? And this is how I would do it, exactly what I'm doing right now. I don't know if they would want to hear my voice for an hour and 40 minutes, but if they're interested in my story, I guess they would want to know all these details as they look to get a director to make this and cast it and get other editors to kind of look at it and see if I messed anything up too greatly. I don't know how it works, but I would want this to be somewhat historically accurate. But again, this is a fictional story about like number one, I'm pretty sure I got most of the facts correct. There were Chinese immigrants that were kind of fucked over as they worked on the railroad. They were discriminated against. I probably got that from Kung Fu. I think there's an episode of Kung Fu where these Chinese workers are being fucked up by their management. I think they're mine workers or something, and Kane goes in there and kind of saves the day like MacGyver. Sorry. And that's probably, yeah, that was a big influence. I remember buying like every episode of Kung Fu around this time, besides watching Easy Rider. I don't think anyone would really see like, oh, he's definitely influenced by Easy Rider. With everything I've read so far, I don't think that's very clear, but that was a big influence on this, and I'll get into that in part two. And all right, I'm going to stop it here and continue in about an hour or so.